People generally think of Hitler at the Eagle's Nest, Eva Braun's home movies, or they think of him perhaps in the bunker in Berlin. This is his actual bunker.
Deep underground, a hidden Nazi lab held a nightmare frozen in time. Rusted machines hissed with residual fog, and faded logs detailed experiments that twisted human minds with toxic mists and deadly frequencies. Each step into the chamber sent shivers down the spine as the explorers realized the fog wasn't just chemical, it was a weapon designed to invade the brain, erase thought, and leave nothing behind but silence. What horrors had survived in that mist? Stay with us to know the chilling details. Buried beneath the earth. It began deep within the cold, silent mountains of Central Europe. A group of geologists and archaeologists were exploring an uncharted area when their radar detected something strange: hollow chambers buried beneath layers of solid rock. At first, they thought it was a natural cave system, but as they dug deeper, the rock turned to concrete, and faint letters began to appear on a rusted metal surface, German words barely visible, dating back to the 1940s. The discovery made everyone stop. There were no records, no maps showing construction in this area. It was as if the place had never existed. The more they uncovered, the more deliberate it looked. A sealed tunnel entrance covered by reinforced walls, hidden carefully to survive time and war. Local villagers had whispered for generations about strange echoes in the valley, flashes of light at night, and hikers who vanished without a trace. Many dismissed those tales as mountain legends, old stories passed around firesides. But now, standing before a massive pressure-sealed door, without hinges or a handle, the team realized that those stories might have been true. With the help of military engineers and Czech heritage experts, the team began their excavation in 2022. They used scanners, drones, and safety suits, not knowing what they were walking into. When the door was finally opened, a dense smell of chemicals filled the air. The atmosphere inside was heavy, lacking oxygen, and filled with traces of nitrogen and other toxic gases. As drones floated through the first corridor, they revealed long hallways stretching hundreds of meters, lined with rusted steel, cracked glass, and faded German signs. The walls bore symbols that sent chills down the spine, an unmistakable black sun emblem associated with SS occult divisions. The deeper they went, the more unsettling the environment became. Inside the first chamber stood broken glass tanks, empty vials labeled gift gas and poison gas, and strange machinery that looked half scientific, half ritualistic. It was as if time had stopped in the final days of the war. Everything was still there, perfectly preserved, waiting to be found. The walls carried signs of hurried construction, as though it was built with extreme urgency. Radiation meters began to show elevated readings, warning the team that something inside was still active or contaminated. Yet curiosity pushed them forward. What kind of experiment was so important that it had to be buried and sealed forever? Then near the entrance, they found an old metal cabinet containing several rolled-up blueprints. At first glance, they looked like engineering drawings, but the writing was strange. It wasn't standard German. The lines were filled with runic symbols, and across one sheet was a chilling heading written in an SS code: Project Nachtfall, Phase Einsatz. The team stared in silence. Project Nightfall, Phase Execution. What did that mean? And what exactly had the Nazis been building down here, hidden away from the world? As they prepared to descend deeper into the tunnels, a feeling of dread filled the air. The sealed chambers below waited in total darkness, untouched since the war ended. The team had no idea that the next door would lead them straight into something far worse: the Lab of Shadows. As the heavy steel door to the next chamber groaned open, a cloud of dust rolled out, carrying a smell of rust, oil, and something faintly sour chemical residue long trapped in the stale air. The team stepped cautiously inside, flashlights cutting through the dark. What they saw was unlike anything they had ever encountered in any wartime facility. Rows of rusted machinery filled the vast underground space. The machines were linked by cracked glass tubes and decayed wires, as if part of a complex system. Large drums were scattered around the room, their faded labels reading Gefahrgas, German for danger gas. Broken ventilation ducts hung from the ceiling, and when the team tested the air, radiation levels spiked again. They realized they were standing inside something far more dangerous than a simple bunker. Everywhere they looked, clues whispered about experiments that pushed the limits of science. On one wall, the team discovered a blackboard covered in chalk equations and strange diagrams. Some of the writing referred to Gedankensteuerung, a term that translated to thought control. There were sketches of brainwave patterns, sound frequencies, and lists of subjects, each marked with dates from 1943 and 1944. It was as if the scientists here had been trying to control the human mind through sound or frequency. In a corner, a row of metal cabinets stood rusted shut. When one was pried open, a set of film reels and photographs tumbled out, their surfaces warped by time. The photos showed people in fog-filled rooms, wearing masks or hoods, strapped to chairs with cables connected to their heads. Monitors in the background tracked brain activity. Each image carried a date and a code name, suggesting they were experiment records. The expressions of the subjects were blank, lifeless, as if they had been drugged or hypnotized. The team's historian examined the images and shook his head in disbelief. "These are human tests," he whispered. "They were experimenting on people." The deeper they looked, the more disturbing it became. German labels warned of restricted access, and one rusted sign read, "Nur autorisiertes Personal," authorized personnel only. The entire structure was built like a scientific complex with multiple wings and sealed chambers. It wasn't designed for defense or storage, it was made for research. And yet, something about the design felt off. The symmetry of the corridors, the markings on the walls, and the presence of occult symbols mixed with scientific notes hinted at a strange union between science and mysticism. The black sun emblem appeared again, painted faintly near a sealed hatch. When the team gathered the recovered documents, one paper stood out. It was a memo signed only with the initials KB and dated February 1944. It referred to something called Unterbau 16A and the next phase of human experimentation. The note was short but chilling. It seemed to describe the continuation of tests deeper underground. The scientists exchanged nervous glances. If Unterbau 16A existed, it meant there was another level beneath them, one that was never mapped or documented. The memo hinted that whatever was hidden there was even more secret, even more disturbing. The lead archaeologist took a deep breath and turned on his headlamp toward a half-buried stairway at the edge of the room. "If the records are right," he said quietly, "that passage leads to Unterbau 16A. The air grew colder as they approached. Their lights flickered, and for the first time, a low hum echoed from below, as if the underground was breathing. They had no idea what waited in the darkness beneath them, but soon they would find out. The next chamber held something far worse than machinery. Nebelkern, the core of madness. At the bottom of the passage, they reached a steel door sealed with rivets and stamped with the number 16A. It took nearly 2 hours to force it open. When the door finally gave way, the air that escaped was dense, heavy with nitrogen and something chemical that stung their throats. Inside, the walls were smooth, lined with steel and faintly illuminated by old emergency lamps still wired to rusted batteries. The first thing they noticed was a table covered in scattered papers and a single red folder, preserved under glass. Its label read Nebelkern Versuch A1 A99. The word Versuch meant test, and inside were pages of detailed notes documenting experiments from A1 to A99. The files described Körperreaktion, body reactions, and Übertragung, meaning transmission. The scientists carefully opened the folder, revealing sketches of strange machines, vibration generators, sound chambers, and a network of pipes that seemed to connect everything together. The diagrams mentioned something called Frequenzfeld Überlappung, or frequency field overlap, a system designed to send sonic vibrations directly into the human brain. The deeper they read, the more horrifying it became. This wasn't chemical warfare, it was psychological warfare designed to control or destroy the human mind. On a nearby chalkboard, symbols and equations covered the surface. They described resonance frequencies, sound waves, and brainwave interference patterns. One note, written in neat German script, read, Der Nebel ist der Träger, der Ton ist der Befehl. The fog is the carrier, the sound is the command. The meaning was clear. The Nebelkern, or fog core, was not meant to kill with poison. It was built to break the human mind using sound and mist. The fog acted as a medium, spreading microscopic particles that responded to low-frequency vibrations. Together, they could cause confusion, paralysis, or even brain collapse. Then came an even more disturbing discovery. In another folder marked Phase Dre Human Trials Initiated, the team found references to test subjects and recorded brain patterns. It appeared the experiments had already reached the stage of human testing before the war ended. One historian noticed a recurring symbol at the bottom of several pages, a stylized sun with 12 spokes, the same as the black sun used by the SS at Wewelsburg Castle, Himmler's center of occult studies. The connection was undeniable. This laboratory was not only a scientific base, it was also linked to the SS's mystical ambitions. Suddenly, the generator lights flickered and one of the monitors crackled faintly. Though disconnected from any power source, a faint static hum began to vibrate through the walls. The sound was low, almost like a heartbeat echoing deep within the structure. The team exchanged uneasy looks. If the core still held power, then something within might not be entirely dormant. They followed the cables running along the floor, leading to a massive door at the end of the hall. Stenciled across it were the words, Phase Dry, nur für leitende Forscher, Phase 3, for lead researchers only. The team's leader swallowed hard and stepped forward. Behind this door, they would uncover the truth about what these experiments really were. The Chamber of Experiments. The door to the next chamber resisted as if it didn't want to open. When it finally creaked aside, the team froze. In the center of the room stood several consoles covered in rust and ash. Dials, switches, and meters were still intact. Some were labeled Nebel Injector, Fog Injector, and Frequency Generator. Others carried the warning Vorlauf Phase, Pre-Run Phase. The setup showed a clear pattern. Fog was released, sound was activated, and the subject's reactions were monitored. It was a complete system designed to test how the human brain and body responded to sonic and chemical exposure. A large logbook lay half buried under dust on one of the tables. Its pages were water damaged, but fragments of writing were still legible. The first entry described subject S14, exposed to Nebel serum for 6 hours under 0.8 Hz infrasonic wave. Respiration ceased after 4 hours, brain activity flat after 4.5. Another entry noted subject S22, transferred from Camp 13. The word Camp 13 appeared several times and was later identified as an unofficial SS black site located near Dachau. The realization hit hard. These test subjects were prisoners. The further the team read, the more horrifying it became. The experiments combined chemicals, low-frequency sound, and psychological manipulation. One page even described subjects being exposed to temperature shifts while fog filled their lungs. Some entries mentioned behavioral silence, a state where subjects became unresponsive but continued breathing for several hours before total collapse. Then came the discovery that made everyone pause. A notebook signed by Dr. K. Behrens described in chilling detail the final hours of subject S14. The mist does not leave the lungs. He begged to stop. Muscular spasms continue even as respiration ceases. The team's historian knew that name. Dr. Carl Behrens was rumored to have vanished in 1945. Some reports claimed he was executed by his own superiors to hide his work. Others suggested he was quietly taken to the United States under Operation Paperclip, where Nazi scientists were absorbed into post-war research programs. As the team examined the walls, one of the archaeologists noticed a penciled note scrawled in the corner of a logbook. Start Phase Vier, transfer to Nebelkern Stabilizator. The translation was, Start Phase 4, transfer to Fog Core Stabilizer. If Phase 4 existed, it meant there was something beyond this chamber, a central machine that controlled everything. But the blueprints found earlier stopped at Level 4. The levels below were uncharted, unmapped, and possibly collapsed. The air grew colder. The radiation detector clicked faster. Somewhere deep beneath their feet, a faint mechanical hum pulsed like a heartbeat. The team exchanged uneasy glances, knowing they were standing above something massive. The technology decades ahead of its time. The deeper the team ventured, the stranger everything became. The staircase that led below the Chamber of Experiments was half collapsed, forcing them to crawl through narrow gaps surrounded by dripping concrete and twisted metal. When they finally reached the bottom, a huge steel door blocked their way. The words painted across it read, "Basement access only." It took hours of cutting and drilling to open. Behind it was a vault-like chamber that felt untouched since the 1940s. The air was heavy and cold, as though the mountain itself was holding its breath. In the center stood a massive cylindrical structure, 3 meters tall, surrounded by coils, glass tanks half filled with a yellow-brown liquid, and metal tubes leading into the walls. The team stared in disbelief. It looked more like a machine from science fiction than from World War II. One of the engineers pointed out that several components resembled modern piezoelectric aerosolizers, decades before that technology was officially invented. The oscillating metal plates displayed perfect Fibonacci spiral patterns, suggesting a level of acoustic precision beyond what wartime Germany was known for. The researchers were stunned. It was as if someone, or something, had given these scientists knowledge far ahead of their time. Some of the documents even used mathematical systems that weren't German in origin. One historian speculated that this knowledge might have come from collaboration with Japan's Unit 731, infamous for its experiments with chemical and biological agents. As the team moved closer to the main machine, they noticed a strange transparent sphere suspended in a tank of amber liquid. When their UV lights shone on it, the sphere seemed to pulse faintly, like it was responding to the light. Its rhythmic glow matched the low hum coming from the coils. At first, they thought it was a trick of the light, until one of the engineers approached and placed a sensor on the glass. The monitor flickered. The reading wasn't mechanical, it was neurological. Something inside the sphere emitted signals similar to brain activity. Trapped in the dark, the team realized the terrifying truth. The Nebelkern machine was not dead. It was awakening. And whatever powered it might not have been entirely human. They were now standing face to face with something that blurred the line between occult science and forbidden knowledge. Occult science and forbidden research. When the team managed to reboot their portable systems, they began scanning the documents piled near the Nebelkern machine. These weren't ordinary scientific reports. They were written in a mix of German, Latin, and ancient Nordic runes. Some pages contained chemical formulas and frequency charts. Others included drawings of circles filled with geometric shapes resembling occult sigils. One line stood out repeatedly in the notes: Wissenschaft ohne Grenzen, Wissenschaft über die Welt hinaus, meaning science without limits, science beyond this world. The Nazi regime was known for its obsession with mysticism, but this went far beyond what history had ever documented. The files revealed that the SS's Ahnenerbe division had secretly merged its occult research with scientific laboratories hidden across Europe. Their goal wasn't only to create advanced technology, it was to break the boundary between science and the supernatural. One of the recovered documents referenced something called Project Morgenröte, Project Dawn. It described attempts to open an energy channel through human consciousness itself. The scientists believed the human brain could act as a receiver for signals from beyond Earth, possibly from higher dimensions or non-human intelligences. They were convinced that ancient civilizations like the Sumerians and Egyptians had already accessed this energy, and that it could be weaponized. The Nebelkern machine seemed to be their physical attempt to replicate that connection. The diagrams showed how frequency generators, magnetic fields, and chemical vapors were synchronized to mimic brainwave resonance. In theory, this could allow the human mind to slip into altered states of awareness, or even make contact with unknown entities. The scientists called it Die Öffnung der Schwelle, the opening of the threshold. As they studied further, one of the historians found a log entry written in the hand of Dr. Wilhelm Strassner, the laboratory's chief researcher. The entry was dated April 20th, 1945, the day before Hitler's final birthday. It read, "The sphere has responded again. The voice in the static speaks our names. It promises knowledge beyond time if we continue. The Führer believes this could turn the tide of war, but I fear it is not him who will rule when the gate opens." Everyone froze. The handwriting was shaky, as if written in fear. The log abruptly ended mid-sentence, and no later entries were found. The deeper the researchers looked, the more they realized that many of the scientists working there vanished without any trace. No records of their transfer or execution existed. It was as if they had been erased from history altogether. Meanwhile, the sphere's faint glow began to pulse irregularly. The hum in the room shifted pitch, turning sharper, almost like a whisper. Some team members reported hearing faint voices in the background, soft, indecipherable murmurs that seemed to come from inside their own heads. One technician ripped off his headset, swearing he heard his name being called in German. Before leaving, the team sealed the chamber again and marked it off limits until military authorities could investigate. the terrifying legacy. Weeks after the discovery, the mountain site was sealed off completely. Military trucks rolled in under the cover of night, and armed guards were stationed at every entrance. The once bustling research camp vanished within days, leaving only rumors and fragments of truth behind. The official explanation called it a hazardous chemical site. But those who had seen the Nebelkern device knew the truth was far stranger and far more dangerous. Governments quickly took control of the evidence. Some crates were quietly shipped to undisclosed military archives. Others reportedly disappeared altogether, likely absorbed into private defense contracts. No one was allowed to disclose what had been taken. By the time international researchers asked for access, NATO had already classified the site at extreme sensitivity level 4, the highest level of secrecy reserved for technologies that could alter human biology or cognition. Still, a few chilling details escaped the redaction. DNA traces found in the air filters and tubes from the lower chambers are still being analyzed. Early results suggest multiple origins, some samples belonging to known Nazi officers, others completely unidentifiable by modern databases. Were these victims test subjects or something even more complex? Until testing finishes, no one can say for certain, but the implications are clear. The Nazis may have come frighteningly close to creating a non-lethal neurological weapon, one capable of shutting down brain activity within minutes. Modern defense researchers now face a haunting question. Was this the origin of today's neuroacoustic weapons, rumored to cause disorientation and paralysis without a single bullet fired? Historians, too, are rethinking everything they knew about Nazi science. If the fog core truly functioned as described, it means the boundaries between physics, biology, and psychology were crossed in ways still not understood. And if that's true, how much of this knowledge was secretly adopted by post-war powers? The United States and the Soviet Union both absorbed Nazi scientists through Operation Paperclip, but no record ever mentioned Nebelkern or Project Lazarus. Perhaps those names were buried deliberately. Even now, whispers persist of other unlocated bunkers, like V49 Sud, believed to lie deep beneath the Austrian Alps. Old Nazi records refer to it as a mirror facility, suggesting parallel experiments may have continued even after Germany's fall. The deeper one looks, the less the boundary between science and sorcery seems to matter. Whether the Nebelkern was built through occult insight or alien technology, it achieved something human science still struggles to replicate. What do you think? Was this secret Nazi lab a step toward ultimate mind control, or something even darker? Share your thoughts in the comments.